It stands for non-athletic regular people. And I kept losing and losing. I lost a lot. And I was like, so why am I doing this? If I'm going to keep losing, like if I'm going to do this, I want to be really good at it. And so I wanted to be a NARP, right? I wanted to be a non-athletic regular person for once in my life and get into the business school and do this and that. And then so I think that was like a pride thing where maybe it was like I wasn't okay with putting myself out there if I was going to lose, you know? And then eventually I sort of realized like why I was going through when it was tough, why I was going through those difficult times. And it's kind of everybody has that figuring out process, you know? And
All right, we're here at the Miami Hawks Thanksgiving Wrestling Camp. We have a podcast going on, the Lugo Show. You can find us on YouTube. Please subscribe. We have the one and only Zach Sherman. Right into it. Before we do that, let's do a 360 about see who's here. Got all the campers around. Yes. Oh, I got quiet. So a lot of tough wrestlers around here. So first, Coach, how you doing? Everything good?
yeah, feeling great. First of all, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here coaching the youth, the next generation of Florida wrestling, especially because, you know, me and you came up out of here, and this is coaching down here is something that's near and dear to my heart. So appreciate it.
I appreciate you coming out. So a lot of people might not know, but me and Zach Sherman kind of grew up together. We both went on dual meets around the country. His dad used to have a team called Florida Heatwave, and that was my first dual meet team I've ever been on. I think we were like 7 years old,
7, 8 years old, somewhere around
7 years old, whatever that was. And
Tennessee.
Tennessee. He went to Tennessee, brought some of the best wrestlers in the state of Florida, and we wrestled against the best wrestlers around the country. I remember being on Zach's team. I remember, drilling with him, working out with him, and it was a lot of fun times. Tell the fans, tell the people watching, how'd you start wrestling?
So I started wrestling. My dad wrestled at NMB, North Miami Beach High. And then he coached at Hialeah Miami Lakes, Immokalee High School, a bunch of different places around South Florida. So he got me into wrestling at a young age, but he did it a little differently. He got me around the sport, but he didn't want to push it on me too much. He wanted me to want to do it on my own. So he put me in positions to really enjoy the sport and see it from a lens where it's, hey, this is something that I really want to do. So I think he took me to the Florida State tournament when I was back when I was in Lakeland, when I was maybe 4 or 5 years old. And then I didn't actually start practicing until I was 6 or 7 years old. But yeah, that's how I got started. And then the rest is history from there.
Rest history.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah, I know my dad definitely was someone who wanted me to wrestle, who's pushing me hard, was always strict on me. I think when he kind of took a step back was when I was really blossom in the sport. But did you do any other sports besides wrestling? Did you only wrestle?
Yeah, I did a bunch of sports. I did all like the baseball, football, soccer. I really liked soccer a lot. And then actually one thing my dad did when I was 8 years old, he met this guy named Ivan Lupachinsky who wrestled at South Broward High School. Really, really good at judo. And he would actually stand straight up when he wrestled, and he would foot sweep everybody. Ended up becoming a NCAA All-American for Purdue. But so he talked to him, and then when I was 8, he got me into judo. So I did judo for 5 years, took me all over the world, went to Brazil, Belgium, for judo. And I actually so I did judo as cross-training for wrestling, but it actually ended up being better at judo. And then once I turned 13 years old, I kind of was like, all right, it's time to kind of focus on one, and wrestling you could take to the college level, judo you can't. So that's where and I enjoyed wrestling a little bit more, I think. But yeah, judo was the big one. And then another one actually that I'm really, really good at, I don't talk about too much, table tennis. You do not want to see me on a table tennis table.
Table tennis.
I promise you I'm lethal.
Yeah. Nice. So I know we got some jiu-jitsu fighters in here, right? I know clap it up if you're jiu-jitsu. Raise your hand if you does jiu-jitsu. Clap it up. Yeah. A lot of jiu-jitsu guys. Zach Sherman was talking about he's doing judo, and now he used that as cross-training for his wrestling. Talk about the difference between judo to wrestling. I know it's different sport, but talk about the mindset, different rules. Is there a different mindset?
Yeah, for sure. So So wrestling, it's kind of like the grind mindset, right? And then judo's a lot of finesse and skill. And then being able to incorporate that into my wrestling was really, really big, especially once I started developing foot sweeps and stuff like that. Um, but it's a different approach. And one thing that judo actually really liked a lot is that they're really big on respect, and it comes a lot from Japanese culture.
Mm,
Um, so I learned how to develop that from a young age, and respect for your coaches, respect for your elders, respect for your partners and your competitors. You bow before each match. So that's actually something that I do most of the time when I'm wrestling. Is I would bow before my match, and I took that from judo. I did that in college and everything, um, and kind of use that as a way to mentally lock in, but also, to show respect for my competitor because I know they're putting in all that effort too. They're stepping on the line. So that's kind of something that I took with me from judo. But I really, really like the sport a lot, and it helped me, especially when it came to wrestling all the way through. And I stopped when I was 13, but I used a lot of that judo stuff all the way through college.
nice. Nice. I did a judo workout once, and the guy choked me out with his gi. Yeah, with his gi. It was pretty crazy. But before we go into the next thing, anyone have any questions you might want to ask?
Lugo, this is for Lugo. You asked Zach Sherman over here if he did any other sports. Have you done any other sports?
Yes, I did soccer, I did football, and I did boxing a little bit. And wrestling was the main thing. My dad said, "Yeah, you can do all these other sports, but don't forget you're a wrestler." I was like, "Okay, sounds good." But yeah, I did soccer. Soccer I did was something fun. All my friends in middle school were playing soccer, so I wanted to join soccer, and I did that for like 3 years. I used to go to wrestling practice and then football practice right after. And then before that, I had like MMA practice. So I had MMA practice, wrestling, football, all in one day, right after school. And that's what my dad put me through. But it was fun. I loved it, But when I got to high school, I just started off wrestling. So that was it. Any other questions? Maybe parents got a question?
When you were in Iowa, like, you got like Spencer Lee and like Austin DeSanto, like who would like push you the most in the room?
The question was, I had partners like Spencer Lee and Austin DeSanto in my room. Who was the one who pushed me the most? I would say, well, my coaches. My coaches, Tom, Terry Brands pushed me. And then obviously myself. I had to push myself, to, pass that limit. My coach, my parent can only push me so far. You get to that wall where they can't help you no more, then you have to be the one to, go push that wall back a little further and further and further every single day. So wrestling is a very individual, independent sport. If you could do things on your own without your parents saying, "Hey, go take out the trash," you could go take out the trash yourself. "Hey, go wash the dishes," you could go wash the dishes yourself. That right there, it's mentally tough. How many kids are just washing dishes without their parents saying, "Hey, go wash the dishes," or fold your bed, you know, or brush your teeth in the morning, or whatever the case is. Be the kid that just does it right away without your parents saying, "Hey, go do this." I hope that helps. Yeah.
And we got a question from Samson over here. He's a bit quiet spoken, but he wants to know what your mindset is going into a match. I know you kind of like touched on it a little bit with the judo and the respect, but as far as preparation, big matches, how do you get yourself ready for each and every match?
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, you touched on part of it right there with preparation. So two things that I focus on going into a match, and I actually wish I did looking back on my college career. I wish I had done a better job with this because so much of it was so focused on winning, and I put all that pressure on myself to go and get a certain result. But um, eventually, I realized that hey, I want to focus on my preparation, and then two, my performance. And as far as my performance, I mean, how do I compete? Am I competing aggressively? Am I being tenacious? Am I going to score points? Am I trying to wrestle my best match as opposed to just wrestling a perfect match to go try and win? And I think when I do that, it allows me to open up my offense. It allows me to wrestle freely, not be so tense. So having that mindset for me, getting away from it's a higher standard of thinking than that we live in a world where everyone's so focused on results. And I talk to this to the guys that I coach all the time, that we live in a world that's so focused on results, and we can hold ourselves to a higher standard than that, than just those results, where we can focus on how we want to compete. Um, how do people want to think of us when we walk off the mat, whether it's a win or a loss? Do we want to be that person that went out there and was aggressive and tried to score points, and just went after it, where you can really showcase your skills and your talent? So my mindset, it's really focused on my preparation and my performance, and that's an everyday thing. So it ends up helping you progress more and more, instead of just, if you're focused on a win, you're not really progressing, you're just getting a result, right? Whereas if you're focused on preparation and performance, you can continue to grow and improve and become the best version of yourself out there.
All right. You got another one right here, right? Come on up. Next question.
What kept you going when things got hard, and what was your self-esteem?
What kept you going
For
when
both
things
of
were
you.
hard, and what's your self-esteem like?
So, my coach, and this kind of goes back to Coach Coleman Scott. He was the reason that I went to UNC, or a big part of it. And he would always ask me not ask me, he would ask the team. He would say, "What's your why?" And for a while, I talked to you guys earlier in that last session about how I lost a lot of matches my freshman year. He would say, "What's your why?" And I would think in my head, I don't really know. At first it was because I wanted to be really good. I wanted to be an NCAA champ. That was my goal, right? I had a goal, but that wasn't my why. So I actually wanted to quit my freshman year in college, and little by little, I kept on thinking about it, and then I realized what my why was, and that I wanted to inspire the next generation to go and want and try and be great, especially you from South Florida. I was a little kid that grew up in South Florida, and I didn't necessarily have all the exposure maybe that you would have if you're in Pennsylvania or New Jersey or Ohio or Iowa, where it's a big wrestling state, right? So I had to continue thinking, and it took me a few months to realize what my why was, but it was to go and be great so that I can inspire the next generation to take that to a whole nother level.
I think so. There's been like 3 times in my life where I was like, okay, I'm quitting wrestling. Like, I'm done. The first time was I was a freshman in college, similar to Zach, and I was working out. We're doing like hills. I was on the top of a hill. We had weights on our hand. I looked down the hill, and then my coach is like, another one. And I'm just like, why am I doing this? Like, I don't need to do this. I can go home right now if I want to. And I was like, I'm done. I was a freshman in college. And then the next thing that just went to my mind was go down the hill and come back up. Like, just go. So I had a voice that said, you're done. I had a voice that said, just go. I went towards the voice that said, just go. And I went down there and I went back up. And after I went back to my dorm room, that voice that was saying, hey, just quit. Like, you're done. Like, you don't want to do it. Like, it goes away. So to answer your question, it's just like, keep going. I don't know. That's a good question. I would just say, like, what makes you want to go? I don't know, just keep going. It's that simple. You know how many times I wanted to quit? Like I said, just keep going. Like, you're eventually going to get where you want to be if you stay consistent. People around you are saying, hey, like, you don't got what it takes. That they're just trying to justify their own feelings because they can't do it. Just keep going. I would say that. And then what helped me train hard was probably like the feeling of losing helped me train hard. Like, I've said this, I think, a few times already. Like, I didn't really care about winning. I just hated losing. I hated the feeling of the loss. So I would train so hard to stay away from that feeling. If I would win, I was like, okay, I was expected to win. I wanted to win. But I just got my hand raised. So what? When I lost, it meant more to me when I lost than to me if I won. a wrestling match. So Tom Brands used to say, head coach of Iowa, used to say, "Hey, get back on the horse. Get right back on the horse," and that means hey, just get right back to it. Go right the wrongs. You lose. I would lose, and I would tell myself terrible things about myself, and I felt really bad. And the best way to make myself feel better is to just get right back on the horse. Just start working out again. Go start working out. Go for a lift. Go for a run. Go wrestle. That made me feel a lot better instead of sitting on the couch and just like feeling sorry for myself. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for me, so there's a term. I don't know if they have this at other schools or if this is just a UNC thing, but they call people who aren't athletes. They call them NARPs. Not, it stands for non-athletic regular people.
Yeah.
And I kept losing and losing. And I lost a lot, and I was like, so why am I doing this? If I'm going to keep losing, like if I'm going to do this, I want to be really good at it. And so I wanted to be a NARP, right? I wanted to be a non-athletic regular person for once in my life and get into the business school and do this and that. And then so I think that was kind of like that was like a pride thing where maybe it was like I wasn't okay with putting myself out there if I was going to lose, you know. And then eventually I sort of realized like why I was going through when it was tough, why I was going through those difficult times, and it's kind of everybody has that figuring out process, you know, and it's like Pat said, if you stay the course, right, and if you keep getting back on the horse and keep going at it, great things can happen. So I eventually figured out what my why was and going through, and then I was able to turn those losses into a positive thing for me, where it was focused on progress and my preparation and my performance and all that stuff. So um but yeah, it hurts, you know. It hurts to lose. So, learning how to deal with that mentally as the idea of progress is kind of what helped me through that, but it took me a while to realize it, you know.
Yeah. I got a question for both of y'all. So I know, like you guys said, you guys wrestled with each other since y'all four, went on a lot of dual teams, right?
Yeah.
Like those are the fun trips, right? Those are the fun times. Like I was actually I was on teams with Ivan Lupinchansky.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think you might have been on a team with a kid I coached named Sean Brown back in the day.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So like, those are the fun times. So what are some of y'all's favorite collective memories from like dual tournaments? Any fun times? Any kind of like stories that you can tell?
Yeah. So there was one with so we took a Florida Heatwave team to McDonough duels, and our upper weights were it was Chase Singletary and Dante Giovanetta, and they they were like, I don't know, I forget exactly how it started, but like the whole team was it was them two against the whole team, and I don't even remember what we were doing, but like we were all like me and I was maybe 60 pounds at the time, and I'm trying to bring down Dante, who's maybe 150 200 pounds at the time, but that was fun. And then we also our parents would always try and tie like some fun stuff into it, especially when we would do those team things. So it was snowing in Maryland, and we took off a some sort of like a yield sign, and we bent it, and then we're like sledding down the hill. It was snowing and stuff, and Florida boys, you know, we don't see snow too often, so we act like the whole world's changing right when it starts snowing. But yeah, it was always good times, and our parents did a really good job of making sure that they tied fun stuff in with it. So there was always really good memories with that, and then that carried over to like the Team Florida national teams once we got older and everything. So just being a part of that group was always fun, and then you get to see us all go to the next level too, or
Yeah.
most of us, right? So but yeah.
I don't know what match it was. I think we were losing. It was a heavyweight match, but we were losing the dual meet. We needed a pin to win. And Dante comes with a big head and arm or arm throw, whatever it was. Dante Giovanetta, and gets the pin. We end up winning the dual meet. We all go crazy. I forgot what it was, but that's a fun memory I had from the Heatwave team or one of those teams. Yeah.
Dante did that a lot.
Dante did that a lot. Yes. Next question. Yes.
What was your adrenaline like at Carver Arena when you're like walking out to wrestle? Like, what did it feel like?
That's a good question. So Carver-Hawkeye Arena is the arena in Iowa. For anyone who doesn't know, like every time there's a dual meet, there's like close to 15,000 fans every time. And walking out in that arena, just picture everyone screaming your name and your body just full of goosebumps. Full of goosebumps. You feel like a rock star. Literally, you feel like a superstar. And that's how it feels when you walk out of that arena. And you can use that energy and have it destroy you because you're so nervous. And that happened to me and I couldn't perform. Or you can use that energy, channel it, and wrestle with it and throw that back at your opponent. And it's hard to do that. It's hard to do that. But yeah, if I can say one word to describe it, I would say rock star. You feel like a rock star walking out. So yeah, I hope that answered the question. Yes.
What or who inspired you?
Right. What or who inspired me? I would probably say my dad. My dad inspired me the most, just because I see how hard he works, and I obviously he does everything for my family, and the type of man he is. I looked up to him my whole life. I still do, and yeah, I would say he is probably my biggest inspiration in life, and I would say he's my hero as well. So for sure.
For me, so I'll take that same question and I'll go at who inspired me because I would say the same answer, right? My dad. But as a coach, who inspired me? So I went to Blair Academy in New Jersey for high school, and I had a coach. He came in my sophomore year. His name was Brian Antonelli. He was before he was the interim head coach at Naval Academy, and just the way he operated, he always had our backs no matter what. But he had us operating like a very, very efficient system. And so the combination of the two things where he's a very, very effective and efficient coach at the same time where he also like extremely loyal and no matter what, he was always looking out for his guys. So as a coach, that's who I want to be like Coach Brian Antonelli.
So you were obviously a very accomplished high school wrestler. What brought you to UNC? Like, did you have other colleges that you were looking at? And what helped you kind of settle in on UNC?
Yeah, so I'll start off with the old saying, you're a Tar Heel born, Tar Heel bred, and when you die, you're a Tar Heel dead. So I always loved UNC. Um, Obviously the colors are great, and the name with Michael Jordan and all this stuff. Um, but when I was making my college decision, there were a few other colleges that I was really interested in. And I liked a lot of the coaches, and I liked the schools. And I was looking for a place where I could get a really good that had really good academics, had a great community around athletics and the school. But then I also wanted coaches that were going to invest in me and that were going to be the best coaches for me. So Coach Neil Erisman, he's now the head coach at University of Little Rock, Arkansas, but he was the one that really recruited me to UNC. And he took a home visit to my house, and this is when I knew. And of course, I had Coach Coleman Scott, Coach Tony Ramos, Jamil Kelly, and then Jordan Oliver ended up coming there. So for a lightweight, like it was a dream coaching staff to have for me. But Coach Erisman, the one thing that really stuck out to me with UNC was when he took a home visit to my house. He told me that he believed that I was going to be a national champ, and he believed I could do that as a true freshman. That I could come in. And the plan was always for me to start right away. So having Coach Erisman, a coach like that really believed in me, that's what I wanted.
So kind of backtracking a little bit to where you said you had a lot of trouble your freshman year because you weren't winning as much. Do you think that having like obviously you always want someone to be like believe in you and like believe high dreams, but do you think that might have set you up for a little bit of frustration your freshman year, or do you think that was going to happen regardless?
Yeah, that's a good question. So my freshman year didn't start off with a bunch of losses. I had some, but I broke the top 15 in the country pretty quick. I went out and placed at the CKLV as a Cliff Keen Las Vegas Invitational as a true freshman. I beat a couple top 10 ranked guys before halfway through the season in my first year. So I came in, I was very, very confident. And then, but I do think there was a lot of pressure on me, and my coaches, they held me to a high standard, and it was a standard that I wasn't really used to. And I think that's what it was. I think it was just an adjustment, and Coach Scott would always tell me, "Hey, what's your why?" And I think I just needed took the time it took for me to figure that out.
And so kind of talking with you too, you went from Edinboro to Iowa, right? Obviously Edinboro, not a slouch program. They were doing really well, but then you make that transfer to Iowa with, the prolific Brands brothers. How did you feel going into that Iowa room from the Edinboro? Like you decided, all right, I'm going to go to Iowa. I'm going to go to one of the top programs. And then you walk in that room with, killers, like everybody from 25 to heavyweight. I remember you telling me like you'd struggle getting a takedown on like guys 2 weight classes lower than you. How did you deal with that standard of excellence, right? That adjustment of the difference in standard.
Yeah, so when I was at Edinburgh, my freshman and sophomore year, I felt like I was confident, wrestling there. When I went to Iowa, I feel like I put a lot of pressure on myself, and my confidence, I was not confident. I was close to being like a coward, if you want to say. Like I was scared. I was scared to wrestle at Iowa my freshman year because I had a lot of pressure. Right, I had an expectation that, like Sherman said, I was not used to. You know, I remember being in my dorm room, afraid of what was going to happen the next day at practice. Like I was I was sleeping. I was like scared. Like I hope I don't have a hard practice. I was a junior in college at Iowa already. I wrestled my whole life, and I was scared of practice the next day. So and it's just, I mean, wrestling humbles you, right? And you bring yourself up, it pulls you down, you bring yourself up again, and I think that's what's good about this sport. How did I deal with that? I remember bringing out my journal, and I would just write down, "I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid." I would keep writing it down and keep writing it down. I read all the way to the front, to the back of the page. That when I got to the last page, I wrote it last time. I'm not afraid. I closed the book. I was still afraid, and I was still afraid. And then I went to the practice, and then after the practice is when I was starting to like bring that confidence back. I was starting to be like, okay, I'm ready. It's just a practice. I know how to wrestle. I know how to wrestle when I'm tired. So I guess a lot of it is just me being in my head, just going through that, and then just telling myself, "Hey, you're just in your head." Like I guess that's how I dealt with it. To answer the question.
And I got a question for both y'all too. You can go with this. You wrestled during the 2020 season, yeah, when it got canceled.
Got canceled.
Yeah. So I mean, you and I talk about this a lot. Like, what was that like for y'all going through that whole process of you training, you get to your conference tournaments, the rankings are set, the seeds are set, and everything, and then you are on vacation, suddenly, right? And I'm not sure how you were doing going into it, but I know, Pat just won the Big Ten, knocked off a very game Sammy Sasso, and then, you know, blank, right?
Yeah.
So how did you guys deal with that? How did you guys deal with the big letdown? Because it's almost different than just losing, and then you get over it and you accept it, you're like, all right, whatever. But then you just never get the chance of that season. How did you guys deal with that for the month, having especially going into a lockdown too, not having ways and outlets?
So for me, I would say I would assume it's probably a little different than Pat because for him it was his last year, right? I too was coming off of I'd won the week before I won my first conference title. I beat Tariq Wilson, who is a guy that I'd lost to 4 times in a row before that. And so I finally kind of got over that hurdle and won my conference title. And so I was really, really happy about that. And I could imagine what Pat felt because we did have a couple seniors on the team that made, like, one of them, I think it was his first or second time qualifying for the national tournament. And that was his last chance. He didn't get another chance after that. For me, I was very happy with because that was the year where I kind of turned the corner, where I really started believing in myself, and I knew that I could um, reach the potential that I thought I could reach originally, and it it only fueled me even more. Like I knew where I was, and it felt like after that I had unfinished business, but I still had the opportunity to go and finish it the next year, and I came in the year after that even more focused. Um, Coach Scott set up a gym in his garage with a mat because we weren't allowed to practice at the school. So the whole entire summer, me and my 2 roommates were basically doing a training camp in Coach Scott's garage in Chapel Hill. So And then I did get a little bit of a vacation to go fishing in the Keys and all that stuff. So that was nice also. But yeah, no, I took the same fire that I had from that year into the next year. Um, and it just sucked that the next year we didn't really have any fans at the tournament. Really,
Yeah.
I did get to have my mom in the stand, so I was able to blow her a kiss after one of my
Oh, I totally
wins and
forgot
all that
about that.
stuff.
I forgot about the no.
Yeah, so the next year there were no fans, but I still had the opportunity to go and continue the trend of believing in myself, basically that I had developed from the first year of we're going through all these struggles, right? So I had kind of gotten over that, and I still had a chance to prove myself.
Yeah.
So that time was crazy time. COVID year. I remember our director of ops, Mariah Stickley, she walked in to practice with a piece of paper, walked to Tom, gave the Tom a piece of paper. I looked at her, Tom reading the paper, and then I just see his face. As soon as I saw his face expression or reaction, I knew that the tournament was getting canceled because I already saw basketball cancel their season. And we were mid practice. Tom brought us in, and he said, he read the paper, pretty much said, "Hey, we're gonna postpone or cancel the national tournament." And he said, "You can finish practice if you want, or you can just go home." And I finished the practice with my partner, and then I remember going to like the ice recovery area, and I was sitting down here like this, and then my assistant coach Ryan Morningstar comes around me, puts his arm around me. And once he puts his arm around me, I just break down in tears. I start crying. I just couldn't control my emotions. And then he said, "It's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay." And then I just go take a shower, walk upstairs, go to my apartment, and then my teammates meet me at my apartment. We're all there. We're all talking. Kind of just in silence too, most of the time. But it was very powerful moment because I felt like I was never thinking about myself at that time. I was sad because of my teammates couldn't have the opportunity to wrestle. Like, I was talking to you yesterday. I was like, well, I had three chances to win the national tournament. Like, I didn't win it, but my teammates didn't get the chance to wrestle that year, and that's why I felt emotional. And that's pretty much it. How did I get through that? I just went back to work. I started wrestling at the senior level, and it gave me more motivation. I believe everything happens for a reason, and it's just more adversity God put in my way, and it made me a stronger human being. To me, to stand up here and express this to you guys, I think it's good. And I'm not trying to play like a little violin. I don't want you to feel sorry for me. I just want you to learn to, hey, you're gonna have adversity go your way. Just keep going, push through it. Be all right. What was my motivation? It's a good question. I don't know. Motivation comes and goes. Z, motivation comes and goes. I would say I just had discipline. I didn't want to lose. That was part of my motivation. Pain, my motivation. But it's different for everybody. But like I said, you gotta have discipline. That's gonna stick around longer. You need both. You need motivation and discipline. But definitely more discipline.
Have you ever wanted to wrestle Bull Bassett, and do you think you could beat him?
Have I ever wanted to wrestle Bo Bassett? No. But do I think I could beat him? Yes. So yeah.
Challenge is thrown down. Yeah, positive tip.
How would you like talk to yourself and like what would you think about like who you were when you like wrestle and stuff? Like how would you like mentally like say to yourself? No, just like in general, like how like what did you like think about yourself?
So I don't know, man. I always had negative things in my head about myself. Always. Like the voices would say, "Hey, you suck. You're terrible. You're not gonna win. You're a loser. You're there." With negative stuff, right? I had to be stronger than what was telling me in my head, and I was like, yes, I am gonna win. Yes, I am strong. I'm in control here. You know what I mean? Not the negative voice. You know what I mean? So I had a lot of negative thoughts. Everyone does. But you gotta push past those things, and you know, and that's why I feel like I wrestle, because I can like push past those negative voices, and have not let those negative voices control my life or who I want to be. You want to answer that question? Same thing.
Yeah, sure. So same thing kind of actually. Like you have that voice in your head that tells you like, hey, maybe you're not cut out for this and stuff like that. Um, and Coach Scott would always say, talk to yourself, don't listen to yourself. Which was really helpful. So then I was like, I really liked Muhammad Ali a lot. So I would tell myself, I'll show you how great I am. I would literally like tell myself that. I'll show you how great I am. And then that's what I would say, like sometimes right before a match or something like that. Or I'd be like, come on, Z, keep pushing, like when I'm tired. So talking to yourself, and that's actually a skill that I developed, was learning how to like talk to myself instead of listening to that voice where it's, hey, like, I'm tired. Let's get out of position here. No, come on, Z, stay in position.
Yeah, we'll wrap it up. So that, unless we got one more question right here. You ready, guys? Ready to ask a question? Last question here.
This question's for Zach. I was wondering, what do you find is the biggest difference transitioning from collegiate wrestling into claw?
Into claw.
Yeah.
That's a
Great
good
question.
question.
Great question.
claw.
Thank you.
Yeah. So hey, good question. By the way, I'm on the Leopards. I'm representing right now. We're competing this Saturday, 4:30 p.m. in Pittsburgh, for the championship. $6,000 on the line. And yeah, so we're going after it. We're ready. For me, it's still the same thing. Wrestling's wrestling. Yes, there's a different rule set. So I'm very strategic. So when it comes to that new rule set, I personally think I just have the best strategy, and I'm not going to tell the other team what I think. There's new strategy elements involved. In my opinion, it's very similar to freestyle. Um, Now I would say the one difference is I'm older now. I'm 27 years old. I'm not 22 anymore. My knee's a little banged up. I got my shoulder fixed for the second time. I had shoulder reconstruction a year and a half ago. So that's something that I've had to work through, and learning how to rest has been, at this age, has been important for me. I go to a physical therapist 2-3 days a week and stuff like that. So that's been really the main difference. But other than that, it's like I've kind of found a little bit of a new fire, where it's like I get a second chance at this. I thought I was done wrestling. My shoulder was dislocating and stuff, and I had a whole reconstruction. So I'm just, I guess the approach I'm taking is the gratitude. I'm grateful for the opportunity now that I get to go compete, and I get to show you all what that's like, and then come in the room and coach you the next day. So I'm grateful for it. That's what I would say is the main difference for me.
Awesome. We'll wrap it up. Watch out, Zane Rutherford. Zach Sherman's coming. But we'll wrap it up. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. That includes the Miami Hawks Lugo Show Thanksgiving episode. We'll see you at the next one.